Hello and welcome to the first live stream on this channel. I'm working on a large painting here. This is 92 centimeters by 73 centimeters, so quite a big painting. So far I've stained the canvas and I've worked out the drawing, and I've just blocked in some of the drawing, but it's totally dry now. So on this video I'm just going to work on it for a little while. Maybe an hour or so. If you join me, let me know in the comments you hear. Appreciate the feedback. So this is Lake Vassivière in France. Been here many times, and I'm going to be using for the sky some Windsor Blue green shade. Got some various colours on here. I'll talk you through those as we go. But I find this Windsor Blue brilliant for creating that sort of summer blue sky. So we'll get some of that on. I probably will be going over this again quite a bit, but I don't want to make it too boring and just paint sky in today. I shall work in other areas. That must be not the best brush for that, so let's go for that one there, bristle brush. That was a synthetic, that one, but something that holds a bit more paint and it perhaps leaves the brush a bit easier. I can scrape up the canvas with this bristle brush maybe. So just going to block in some of the sky, and the reason I'm doing a live stream on this video is because I'm probably going to do it in stages, this one. So rather than just post lots of individual videos or to put it all together when it's finished, I thought I'd just go live with it, and those of you who are interested can follow along. Obviously, if you miss it live, it's not a problem because you can just watch the replay. So I'm trying to make my brushwork interesting here by not just painting as if I was painting the bedroom wall. Try and make it a nice sort of loose painting, so it gets lighter as it comes down to the horizon here. I'll keep having a look at the comments. Hello Greg, nice to have you here. How's it going? We've got a lot of rain here in France at the moment, but we're hoping it's going to brighten up. But hopefully you've got some better weather in Wales where you are. So I've just added a little bit of white into that blue, but not too much white. But I don't want to make it milky and lose the vibrancy of this blue. I'm using a fast drying white, Griffin Alkyd, which will just speed up the drying. I'll put a little bit maybe of that in the blue at the top here, which will help this to speed up as well the drying. I don't normally work this size, but I do fancy doing some big paintings. And possibly even go bigger than this at some point. But where I am in France, we've got an old barn that I've converted into a sort of an atelier stroke gallery. So I've got the option to have some quite big paintings. I'm not overly bothered about it'd be nice to sell paintings, but to be doing them to sell, but maybe do have a presence on Art Finder, so an Etsy, so my paintings are available to purchase, or if you can contact me direct. The problem with trying to sell artwork, as I'm sure you all probably get, there's so many scammers out there. I've had 2 this week pretending to be buyers, but I am wise to their scams. I normally spot them, but sort of questions they ask, it's all just too obvious. As soon as they say I'm an NFT, that's it, just block. But anyway, why I like doing my YouTube channels, because you know I can forget about trying to sell artwork and make videos which hopefully you'll get the benefit from. I shall have a rest from this sky, but kind of got the right effect. That yellow stain underneath, which is dry, that will come through this. But what I will do, I'll paint the branches perhaps when this has dried, and then I shall go in and you know, put some more of that blue in there, but try and keep it interesting. So perhaps let's go back to that other brush here. So I've got a laminated photo here that I can use to just check my colors if I need to, but I'm not overly bothered about having the perfect, you know, colors correct, but tonal value is important. So it definitely needs to be a little bit lighter there. Oh, you got sunshine. That's not fair, Greg. It should be sunny here in France. So some of that blue down here. And this is kind of my first pass, so I can be quite loose and not worry too much about, you know, my brushwork. Well, I want it to be loose, but not worry too much. You know, if I make a few mistakes, that you know, I can correct things. You know, when I say make a few mistakes, obviously I don't want to be making, you know, massive mistakes, but you know, if I leave a bit of a gap here or something, I can come back and go over it again. That I find covering the canvas as quick as I can with the first pass, try and get everything as close to the values as possible, and then just come back and refine. I've got that blue coming across the lake there, and it's got a lot lighter over here, almost white there, but again, that's where I can, you know, make a few changes if need be. So it's always good to step back from it. So particularly with a big painting like this, I shall switch to a slightly smaller brush. I tend to have a bit of tissue in my hand as well, so I can just control the amount of paint on there. So we've got a reflection. Well, I'll paint this mound here first. So let's go in with a bit of brown and blue just to make a dark. So I'm going to steer it towards blue, the distant hill. That I've painted this scene in watercolors a couple of times actually. And what I would tend to do in watercolor is anything distant like that, I would kind of paint it blue because it would send it back. I know on a lot of my oil painting demos, I kind of follow the photograph, but mainly that's just a sort of teaching aid, really. That, you know, when I'm painting myself, which kind of this is really, I'm, you know, not necessarily thinking this as a tutorial as such. You know, it's a live stream and a chance. Maybe, you know, you can ask me some questions or, you know, throw some ideas at me for videos or whatever. So I'll get some darks in first. So I've got a few different colours on here. I've got a primary yellow. I've got orange on there, vermilion orange. There's iron crimson, which is a colour I normally have on there. Darks in there. And I've got some earth colours, raw sienna, burnt amber, and my ultramarine blue. So we'll have a little bit of green in the distance there, but I will steer it towards a bluey green. And again, with oils, it's very forgiving that you know, we've got the option to try it. You know, maybe it will work better to have, you know, like in the photo, more, you know, yellows and warmth in these distant hills, just to sort of make more of that sunshine. And you know, with oils, you can change your mind and put that in. Obviously, with watercolors, it's kind of more permanent. But maybe have a combination of both. You know, a bit of warmth over there maybe. I'll try that. Yellow. I'll try some of that orange. Don't normally use a orange. I just mix it myself, but it's definitely got it's quite muted. The colours off in the distance here because obviously with aerial perspective it is going to be not as bright as the orange here in the foreground. The temptation is to start putting detail in and so on, but this is a big painting. It's going to be designed to be viewed from a distance, so I can be quite loose with these marks. So we'll leave the background as that for the moment. I can come back to it if need be. So let's have a work on, let's do something here. So we've got a bit lighter in tone. And I kind of envision probably working on this several times before it's finished, or it depends on how it goes, But so I will have a chance to make some changes if we need to. But if I can do it all in one go and get it looking how I want it to look, even better. But I've got to be careful not to blend on the paper. It's a canvas. I've been doing a lot of watercolor because that's the mistake. When you start scrubbing at it and blending in it just everything comes milky and muddy and a total mess. So avoid doing that if you can. So what's the quality of the stream like, Greg, if you're still there? I've got a warning triangle up from YouTube telling me that something's not quite right with the resolution, but it's done that before and it was okay. It's of interest. So it's kind of an orange here, which I've probably got that colour fairly well to make it more orange. Brilliant, thanks, Greg. And so my internet connection, I'm using Starlink. We're in rural France, so I think we have got fibre optic coming at some point, but Starlink is doing the job at the moment for me. So that orange is going to be quite nice, and the ground. This was a photo I took in the summer. We were away in the camper van, and it was sort of towards the end of the summer, I think. So the grass areas were quite scorched. But there's a little bit of green there. So this scene is going to rely on the light against the dark. So it's important to get those darks in. We can go a little bit darker there, but be careful not to go too dark because that is too dark, definitely. Let's put some green in there. We end up at Lake Pacifica quite often because it's about an hour away from where we are in France, and there is a lake here, obviously, and quite often we'll go for a swim in there. But when we're in the camper van having a swim in the lake, that's our showers. Nice and dark here, and this is kind of painting sort of freely. That on a lot of my other demos, I've kind of very sort of controlled, mix the color, check it on the laminated photo, and done it that way. And so that's more of a teaching aid. But with this scene, I'm kind of just painting freely, and you know, I should probably get a different result that I'm mixing on the canvas here. And we've got here. Hello, thanks again for the letting us know about the streaming, and welcome to this live stream. So got a dark in here, and obviously the photo is quite good actually, but a lot of the time, you know, the photo won't pick up the colours that you know, I can't really remember what it looked like when I was there. But I remember the whole place being flooded with orange as the sun was going down. So, you know, I can react to that and put some of that in. That if you have the opportunity to go outdoors and paint, you know, I'd highly recommend that. That we're going to definitely try and do more this year. That I had one event a few weeks ago, but I did use watercolour for that event. But I will try and get oils out as well live, and you know, with 5G now out and about, which is in most places, and if I've got the opportunity to go live, that's going to be quite good, because it's a bit of a pain to edit the videos in the camper van. I've got to do it on my phone opposed to using a you know, laptop. So and so I run a couple of channels. That I've got a watercolor channel as well, so that takes up a lot of time for editing, as well as the obviously oils. But I want to try and get the oil channel up to the same level as the watercolor channel. I do like a challenge. So it's going well at the moment. So I just didn't want to get too tight with the brushwork. Keep it nice and loose was my plan. Now let's try and get some of this orange in here. So I'll go to another brush. So we'll try a bit of this orange here. So I'm just using paint straight from the tube. That I have got some linseed oil here ready if I need it. So we'll start with orange there, but you know, you don't need mediums. I get asked that all the time. You know, do I use liquid or, you know, white spirit or whatever? That you know, you can just use paint straight from the tube. If it's a little bit stiff, this orange is very stiff. That, you know, I could add some oil, but I don't want to do that on this layer, because, you know, I'm going to be going over it again. So keep the fat over lean rule to keep the next layer over slightly oilier. I don't really want to add much oil on this first pass really. But on sort of my other demos, I kind of mix the oil in pre-mixed, so they're all at the same level. I don't particularly like using white spirit. I just don't like the smell of it really. Not so bad in this studio because I can have ventilation, but in my winter studio, it's there's no ventilation really, so I'd avoid that. So I can start to think about, you know, final marks. So I can see, you know, some orange creeping across the grass here. Just put a little bit in there. So what I tend to do is, you know, work in an area, and then I get a little bit, you know, bogged down with this. So let's move to another area, and I'm, you know, refreshed. So perhaps I'll work on this area here. We've got some greens. Let's use brush. I know I've mentioned this a few times on my thingy, but keep my brushes in here in this well. So it's basically they're all sitting in oil. So I don't need to wash my brushes between painting sessions. I just wipe them off, stick them back in the oil, and they're ready to go. Saves a lot of time, and actually will make your brushes last a lot longer. But I used to, you know, wash them and do my best to get all the paint out, but they would still end up, you know, dried paint, but they're always lovely and soft. So I'm not sure where I found that tip, but Rembrandt used to use that method. I did actually do an experiment, and I put them in water to see, because obviously the oil would stop the water would stop the oil oxidizing, and it did work. Just my only concern would be, what the water would do to the brushes. Whether it would. I said one of them did go mouldy, so I think I will continue to use oil. But what I do, once the oil's been contaminated, I put the contaminated oil into a jar with water, give it a good shake up, and that's been stood for 2 or 3 weeks. So I can just pour the clean oil off the top until we get to about here, and then throw away the sludgy stuff. So linseed oil is not that cheap, so I don't like wasting stuff. So another little tip. So there's the tree there. So it's good, like I say, to keep stepping back, because you do see it differently. So I have to lower my glasses. I've managed to go 40 years without glasses, but I think I was getting headaches because I was doing a lot of editing of the videos. Brush. So I went and had my eyes tested, and I needed glasses for certainly reading the computer, and seems to have stopped my headaches. So, and also I use a laptop now to do the editing of the videos, so a slightly bigger screen. So dark in here, but make sure we don't go too dark. And that connects up to this tree. Back into the green here. So it's be interesting to find out, what people want me to paint. Certainly on my watercolor channel, buildings seem to be very popular. That the few videos that I have got that have gone, not necessarily viral, but got lots of views, seem to be paintings of buildings, particularly sort of French chateaus and things like that. I've done various subjects on my oil channel, but animals and still lifes and landscapes are always popular. I've lived in England, Wales, and France, so I've got various photos references from those areas, and there is actually a group that I started with my wife Kate called Inspirational Photos for Artists. Links are in the description, so you can share your photos. There's I think most of people who watch my channel are from America, so quite nice to do some scenes that will be familiar to you as well, those of you in America. Got if you do like painting watercolor, that the link is in the description for that as well. But I've got a Saturday challenge on there that a seascape tomorrow with Khyber. But work on these trees here, so it's quite good. I've got it's quite dark here, quite a bit of light, so that's going okay. So a big area, so a bigger brush. And this green is quite cool because it's in the shade. So let's use a bit of that Windsor blue. We'll cool it off. And because I've got quite a lot of texture on here for when I did the underpainting, which I used raw umber, so that's a fast drying oil. That texture has been left behind. But I don't really have the patience, not on this sort of size, to do a fiddly painting individual leaves and so on. And actually, I don't think they look as good, as paintings that are done fast and spontaneous. So that's my aim with this one, is to try and not get fiddly with it. Maybe towards the end that I can start to add more detail, but I can suggest branches just by dragging that brush on its side, I do that with watercolour, just dry brush it on the paper, so I can use that same technique. This is a linen canvas. I splashed out and bought a linen canvas, and it's got it's not as bumpy as the canvas is, so it's a little bit smoother, but it still does have a tooth. Just scrubbing at the canvas really, put in where I see a dark area, and again, colour's not that important, but I can just mix the black by mixing the Azine Crimson and the burnt, the ultramarine blue to create a dark here. There's already some green there, so it will mix. Like I say, a scene like this, I'll paint for a little bit, an hour maybe, and then have a rest from it and move on. Whereas other stuff, I did a demo of that one the other day that get it in the place. I probably painted that in just under an hour from start to finish. That's only 6 inches by 8 inches, so quite nice to do some smaller paintings because you can kind of just, like I say, get them finished in one sitting. So it's quite nice to finish a painting. Tree here. I'll leave that little highlight there. That's quite nice. So the sun's obviously coming in this direction. Make a little bit less of it, but too early to get involved in details as yet. And that's quite nice as well. I've got a hard edge there and a soft edge there. That's something else to be, aware of. Your edges. You've only got to look at the works, of the likes of John Singer Sargent and Ted Seago and so on. And you'll notice, they were master at their edges. It's worth thinking about that. So that where do you want a hard edge and a soft edge? That comes down here, and I'll suggest some branches in at some point. Now this is creating contrast. We've got light against dark here. There's some leaves there that are picking up the color of the sun, so I can add those in at some point, and some more sky holes in there. So I think that's going okay. So let's work on maybe putting some of these branches in. I've got a rigger, I think, somewhere. Bear with me. No, I can use a flat brush. I can't find my rigger. Not very organised. Go for using a flat brush, but I'll use something with a soft hair. This is a Rosemary & Co. Evergreen Short Flat, but because it's soft, it should give me a half decent line. But I'll use just a little bit of linseed oil to make it flow. If I just take it straight from the tube like so, and I'll go for that one there. It's not too bad. The linen canvas is taking it quite well actually. So if I can get away without using linseed oil, the better. But with these softer haired brushes, the paint does leave the brush a little bit easier, but you'll get a different mark. That I want a smooth mark for these trees, whereas here I needed a rough mark, so the bristle brush was better for that. Didn't quite get my trees correct as the photo, but that doesn't matter because obviously trees do grow and fall down and change, so it's not a problem. And more red. So these ones seem to be darker, and then they kind of get warmer in the middle, and then they kind of go blue there. So And again, it's down to how good your reference photo is to, you know, the quality of your painting. You know, unless you've done a lot of painting outdoors and you know what happens to things, you know what effects light have on objects, so you can kind of improvise. Tree crossing over there. Another one going up here. It's again good opportunity for light against dark here. And with these trees, to get them looking kind of natural, it's better not to go straight up as a straight line. You know, they kind of grow, they change direction slightly, and it'll just add more interest to the scene. So it says we've got 12 people watching at the moment, so don't forget to put a comment, say hi. It's nice to see who's there, and it'll help the YouTube algorithm to perhaps suggest this video to other people. So that'll help me out if you put a comment. So with that Windsor blue green shade, maybe I'll try and put some of that on this tree here. So thinking as I sort of painting now, I'm thinking maybe, you know, have a play of warm and cool colors that, you know, we've got some of these, you know, lovely blues here in the shade and all this warmth here. So that could be the plan for the painting. Do I ever use Gamsol? No, I haven't done. It's probably one of those products that I, you know, see lots of artists using and think, oh, I should try that. I used to use just, you know, sort of mineral spirits or turpentine to thin the paint down to do the first layer so it dries quickly. But I kind of went away from that and started just using the Griffin Alkyd paints if I wanted, you know, it to be dry for the following day, or even, you know, acrylic. So that's really why, you know, I think, you know, with this that this is just ordinary oil paint that probably be touch dry in about 2 or 3 days, so I can come back over again. So let's get some green. So we've got a tree growing up here. So back to a bristle brush, and it's quite dark, and I can really load the brush up. But don't be shy to put a lot of paint on your brush, you know, when you're kind of getting to, you know, these sort of areas where you know that's going to be a final mark. And I'll probably paint the water after this little bush here has dried between the marks, because it always looks better. Same with the trees, you know, I'll get these branches in, get all the stuff in here, and then I'll go in and just sharpen up any edges, and again look to have a combination of hard and soft edges. So just a suggestion of detail. No, we don't need any more than that. And it's quite interesting, since I started making YouTube videos, that particularly some of my watercolor videos, that when I'm editing them, I can sort of see, you know, when the painting's actually finished, and I end up sort of, you know, painting for a few more minutes afterwards, adding things that didn't necessarily need to be there. It's very difficult to leave a painting alone. That's half the battle, and the skill is to know when it's finished. Which sometimes it's quite good to you know, have a partner or something who can say, leave it alone, you're finished. But this is quite a way off yet, this painting. There's a load of warmth coming up here. And so I will need to, let it dry in stages because, it'll just get muddy, if I keep working on it over and over again to a certain degree. Warmth travels up here. Just seeing a bit of light in here. But I'm not a particularly patient painter that, that's why I love watercolors, because it's just so instant. And I like painting on location because, the idea is you get the painting done on, in one sitting, get it finished, on to the next one. So I think I would quite like to, cheers, Greg. Quite like to get some of that warmth here off in the distance. So not a lot of paint on the brush, just sort of lay that on there a little bit. So although my initial thought was just no distant blue, but let's just flood it with warmth. And what I do is I just roll the brush and just whatever mark is left, that's the mark. And it looks awful from where I'm standing, but when you step back from it, and stick with the plan, it'll look good, hopefully. But we never see it same as someone else will see your painting. So let's have a go at putting some of these branches in. I could do it finding my rigger. Short-handled one here, that will do. I've got a long-handled rigger somewhere, but it's probably upstairs. I've got I'm lucky enough to have a few studios, but we've got a house in France that was an old farmhouse with a barn, so I actually converted the barn into a studio. But this time of year, when the temperature starts to get a bit warmer, it gets too hot in that studio, so I've got a studio around the back of the building. This would have been an old cow shed where they kept the cows and probably a donkey or something. But again, this has been converted. So with these branches, I'm not really going to look at my reference picture because it will just take too long. So let's just glance across maybe. So I am using a little bit of linseed oil here, just to make it flow a little bit. And what I do is I kind of flatten the brush to give me this knife edge to put these in. And this is very laborious, so I'll only do it for 2 or 3 minutes, then move on to somewhere else, because the danger is if you get bored doing something, you kind of just then, it's better to move on, do something else, come back and do a bit more of that. So I've found that to be quite a good way to work. That you're less likely to make mistakes or get lazy. So we can make it dark in there. Not that dark. Here it's actually getting a little bit more light, but it's kind of like a dark grey in there. Already fed up of doing branches, but I was painting on location Thursday before last, and I came to the realization that you definitely need an umbrella when you're painting. That not because of the rain, because of the sunlight. That there was the mayor of the village invited artists from all over the place to come and paint in the village, and at the end of the day there'd be a little competition and an exposition. And I said to Kate when we were walking around seeing all these artists painting in bright sunshine with the sunlight on their canvas, I said when we see them at the end of the day, they're all going to be very dark because they look bright with the sunlight on. Because it's happened to me before that I could see what was going to happen, and I was right. That unfortunately for them, that a lot of their paintings just looked very dark. And I did a painting on location in oils, and I was really pleased with it. You know, full of colour and light and so on, painting on location. But I didn't have an umbrella, and the sun was on the canvas. And then when I got it home, it was almost black. It was just so dark. So you do need a lot of light to paint so you can see what you're doing, particularly for filming. I need a lot of light, but be wary if you have too much light, that when you come to view it, say under normal light, you know, in your living room or whatever, it could appear to be very dark. So just experiment with the light. But with the umbrella, it kept the sun off my paper, and it worked a treat. So another branch going off there. Hello, Paula. Thanks for joining us, and glad you're enjoying the videos. But, hoping that I did a video posted yesterday, I think, which showed the drawing on this. I actually used a projector to project the image on here, and the reason I did that was it's quicker. I do a lot of freehand drawing on my videos, so you know I can freehand, and I could have done this freehand. Probably wouldn't been as accurate, and it would have took me probably maybe an hour or so to freehand it. But by projecting it, 5 minutes to get a perfect accurate drawing, the perspective and everything all in the right place. Obviously, a lot of people will say that's cheating, and well, that's obviously they're entitled to think that way. But artists have used projectors or traced years ago, many years ago. They'd use the sun and concave mirrors to project an image onto the canvas, particularly portraits. There's a lot of left-handed people in portraits because the convex mirror would do a mirror image. And my reason for doing it's to save time. It's a speed thing for me. That I do a live stream for Watercolour. I try to post a Watercolour demo on Patreon every day. I want to do more paintings on my oil painting channel, so it's a way to speed the process up for me. And you can see a drawing that's been done that way, traced or projected, and you'll notice they look different. But a lot of artists who have channels don't admit to it. I suppose they're afraid that they're going to be called a cheat and so on. But I think as a teacher, it's my responsibility to be totally transparent and honest with methods. And I know I have a few patrons on my Patreon page who trace because they don't like drawing, or they can draw but they like the actual painting process, so it speeds things up. Why not? But the important thing is to be able to draw. That I wouldn't neglect drawing completely. That particularly in the winter, I do drawing practices. That portraiture is something I really want to progress on, and that does rely on accuracy 100%. If I've got this tree slightly wrong, the shape of the tree wrong, it's not going to be an issue. But if you're doing a portrait and the eye's in the wrong place by a millimeter, it will just be awful. So that's why I think a lot of these tutors who have YouTube videos who do portraiture, I can see that they've used a projector, and I know a lot of artists who do commissions, might have 5 or 6 commissions to get through in the next few months. You're going to spend 3 or 4 days on the drawing or project it, and then get on with the work. It's one way to look at it. But when I'm outdoors painting, obviously there's no projector, so it's freehand. So you've got to, still have that skill to be able to draw. So getting down with a little bit of detail, but I will be painting the sky around this. So it's really just to help to sort of see what the painting's going to be. And you can use your brushes in all sorts of ways, really. That this is a Regga. It's quite a thick head on it, but I can wipe some of the paint off, put it on its side, and just drag it down, and that will give me this kind of floaty branch look. There's no right or wrong way to use your brushes. It's whatever works. And you can get away with making something look really detailed by, say, doing that, and then just a few little detailed marks. That will make it look like you've painted every individual branch and so on. Again, this is all adding sort of sparkle and light, light against dark here, and I'll leave some of this underpainting to shine through when I come to start doing more of the sky. I'm kind of using this brush to do this, and it's actually working quite well. Part of it is just laziness not to get another brush, but it's actually doing the job quite well. And I'm not sure what this technique is actually called. When I do this in watercolour, I call it dry brush. So we'll call it dry brush. So there's not a lot of paint on it, and I'm just scraping it over the surface to create that sort of texture. Let's have a break from that before I mess it up. Switch to another brush. It's not to get down with using small brushes at this stage, really. That tissue. It's a big painting, so I don't want to be doing anything with fiddly brushes. Probably want to do the leaves over here. I'll use a small brush, but I want to try and get that light that's in here. A bit of yellow, a bit of that orange, and load the brush up. So it's kind of in there. And when you've got paint already on the canvas, you kind of just got to lay that paint on. That if you start scrubbing at it, you pick up what's underneath it, and it just turns muddy. So, this is a slightly more trickier way of painting. We know I'm kind of just experimenting, trying things and painting, but some of my other videos where I physically check the colors on the laminated photo, you can pretty much get success every time. If you've got a good photo, you can make a good painting, but it's not necessarily that an enjoyable way to paint. And after I get quite a few people commenting saying it's not the best way to paint and so on, but they miss the point. It's a learning tool to then be able to progress on to painting more freely. That to be successful in painting, you need to be able to see tonal value. No two ways about it. And any artist who's worth their salt will tell you that if you get your tonal values wrong, your painting's going to be wrong. And I could paint this in any color, but as long as I get the tonal values right, it's going to be good. That's quite nice, that there. Let's try and perhaps put a little bit more color in here. That got to be careful with white because it will just make everything milky. So we'll go for getting a little bit of more orange in there, and start using some thicker paint and move the brush about, create texture. All sorts here, grass, leaves, and so on. And maybe concentrate the light here. It's certainly darker over here. It comes across here. A bit more red. And maybe some of that orange across here. And when you're outdoors painting, you see everything differently to looking at it from a photo. That I can remember, say there was oranges, reds, and all sorts of colours in the shadows as well. Whereas I got lucky on that photo that it looks okay, but if I was comparing it to what it looks like in life, it would nowhere near. Hello, Hilary and Alexandra. I think if you paint in both mediums, watercolour and oils, that's good. I learn a lot from watercolour to paint in oils and vice versa. And a lot of the great painters did both. But what I find quite interesting is that when I've got a book that's about 100 years old, or 120 years old. I think it was written by Alfred East. And he says in there that a student wouldn't touch watercolor until they've mastered drawing and oil painting, because watercolor is a master's medium. And it's actually kind of this today. People reach for the watercolor if they're going to start painting because they think that's going to be the easiest. But they soon discover it's incredibly difficult, because you've got to just learn all the I know this is an oil painting channel and I'm talking about watercolor, but you might be thinking about doing some watercolor. You've got to learn how wet the paper is, how much moisture is on the brush, and all these different factors, even how humid it is in the air, will affect your painting. Whereas with oils, it's just so forgiving that if I completely mess this up, not a problem. Let it dry, paint over, or just wipe it off. So I can see why, master oil painting first, and probably if you've got oil painting down to a T, you could probably paint watercolor, because you won't have to think about tonal values and composition, and your drawing, you'll know all of that. But that's, I think, the problem, that if you still haven't mastered those elements and you're trying to then also work out how wet the paper is and all these other things, it's always going to be difficult. But I think probably you need to do something for a certain amount of hours before you get any good at it. That I've been painting 20 odd years, and I'm still learning. There's still stuff I don't know, and I've only got to look at some of the artists I admire, and I'm nowhere near their level, and may never get to that level, but I will try. But I was going through my Google Photos account to get some reference pictures for demos, and obviously I've got lots of photos on there of paintings I've done, from years gone by, back to probably 2016. And what I thought was good at the time, I'd be embarrassed to show anybody now. But that's painting. You're as good as you are at that point, and you should be proud of that. But always be looking to get better. And the only way you'll get better is to paint. But I was guilty of it as well. Not saying you shouldn't be watching videos, because I want you to be watching my videos, but combination of the two. Watch your videos and paint as well. But and don't worry too much about the end result. That sounds crazy, but if you've done some bad paintings, you've taken something from that. You've learned something. So using directional brush marks here, and I've kind of done that unconsciously, really. And that's what you do when you paint regularly. You pick up these skills and you do them without thinking about it. That I want the eye to kind of travel across here, so I've used horizontal marks here. Where I've perhaps used vertical marks here as well, to describe what's happening. So let's get some red down here, and I've also got the option, once this is dried, to glaze areas as well. So that's something to be thinking about as well. That if I want to make this area darker but keep it kind of translucent, I could do that with a glaze rather than painting opaque paint on it. So lots to think about. And the planning starts as soon as you start looking at a scene. When you get your camera out, or ideally doing a sketch on location. It always amazes me, these paintings from masters gone by. They never had photography. Before the era of photography, that they would do a sketch on location, maybe do some color studies. Actually, I did a video that I did a painting in my garden where I refused to use photography, so I did a pencil sketch and I did some color studies, a little painting on location, and then I did a painting in the studio with that material, not looking at the it was good exercise, it was. But we do have photography, so we can use it, but it's good not to rely on it completely. Get out there and paint if you can. You will have lots of people coming up to you and giving you advice. I had one chap give me his whole life story about how his grandfather was a sculptor when I was out painting last week. But it's nice to meet these people. So probably think about having a break from this soon and go at it again in a day or two, maybe, or next week when it's dried. I've got some other videos to do, so if you've not subscribed yet to my channel, hit the subscribe. So I think that's probably enough for today. That I've taken it from the first sort of stage, really, and I've now got the canvas kind of covered everywhere. It's still quite loose, but I feel myself, what shall I do now? What shall I do now? So I know if I come back to it in a week, I'll be full of fresh ideas for this painting. So it's good to have a break from it and come back to it. So thanks for joining me on this live stream. And if you look in the link in the description, you can join my oil painting Patreon page. I've now got 2 Patreon pages because I wanted to separate it from my watercolors because it gets confusing otherwise. And you can join as a free member on my oil painting channel. Links in the description, and then you'll get the notifications when I'm going to go live. There also is some paid options on there as well, so take a look at those. So I shall see you on the next demo, which I'll have coming out soon, or on the next live stream. So thanks for joining me. I'll just quickly read this message by Alexandra. I did try your video on breaking down to just shapes, and it turned out quite good. Brilliant. That's great to know, Alexandra, that you tried the demo and it worked. Again, in the link, there's a Facebook group, Oil Painting with Robert Mee, that you can share your demos you've done or any other paintings you've got on that group. And it's great to see some of your paintings that you've done for my demos. That I know I get a reasonable amount of views and stuff, but to actually see the paintings being done, it's nice to see that. And Paula says, I have to go close to the computer to read because of my eyesight. I see you paint mostly landscapes. Wonder if you could paint a rose. I have watched many lessons on roses, but still I find difficulty. Yeah, I have done a painting of a rose. And there was a short video I think on my channel where I did a rose. But yeah, I've got lots of roses in the garden. That my wife Kate, she loves roses, so she keeps planting new rose bushes. So yeah, I'll definitely do a video painting roses because I noticed something on roses that you know, that you've got to be very subtle between the color, the tones on them. It's not as drastic as it actually you think it is. So we'll do a video on that. So brilliant. Okay, so bye for now, and I'll see you soon.